Today we are here in Brussels. This is a very beautiful day in Brussels, and I'm together with Ana Toledo from the USA, from the States. She came here to Brussels, and in a few minutes, Ana, you will tell us why you are here and what you are doing just right now in the States, because you are the attorney for Targeted Justice, for a US TI group. I think it's the biggest one of all TI groups in the US, for a group for targeted individuals, and you are the attorney for them, and you go to court because a special reason. You go to court for the TIs in the US and also for all TIs. I think it's very important what you are doing, and you will now explain to us what every TI in the world wants to know, what you are doing right now and how all this stuff is going on. This is very interesting for many people. And my first question, why are you here? What are you doing in Brussels? You should be in the US, I think.
I know. Well, here's the thing. My friend, she's studying in Paris in the Cordon Bleu School. And she's all alone because she had a situation that her son came with her to study, but he had to leave. So she basically invited me, and she's paying for everything, and said, please come, because I speak a little bit, very little of French, and she doesn't speak any. And I lived in France when I was in Colombia. I did one semester in Paris. So she wanted me to sort of help her navigate a little bit Paris in terms of going to places, Mm-hmm. We went to Montmartre, and we were trying to go to Musée d'Orsay, but it was closed. So basically she needed a partner to go around because she's all alone, and she was going to do it with her son, but she couldn't do it anymore. So she basically took her son's spot in the hotel and everything, and she just paying for everything. So I was very skeptical of coming here because I have a lot of work. But since I just did the filing of the motion for preliminary injunction, we're just now in a waiting game. You're sitting waiting for the government to reply. So I took my chances because it is very important for me also to make a connection with ICATOR and with the people in Europe, because I am aware that there are more targeted people in Europe than even in the United States.
This could be. There are a lot. We know there are a lot.
We have to join the community. So, ICATOR invited me, paid for my trip here.
We have to come together and to work together.
Yeah, yes. To join forces and to share knowledge so that we can defeat this monster that I think that 2023 will be the year that will be free.
Hopefully. We all hope that, yeah. Many people are waiting for too long and waiting for such a long time and suffering all the time, all this torture. This must come to an end, and better now than tomorrow, yeah.
And I believe that if we're not together, if all the TI organized groups don't come together, it'll be a little harder. I think it's important to get the message out, because when we prevail in the United States, it will have repercussions here, but it is important that the entire world knows that the torture goes on everywhere. And some people attribute it to causes that are not, the pains and stuff. Oh, it's old age. No, it's not. Oh, it's fibromyalgia. No, it's not. It is microwave. You are being microwaved. And these are the symptoms, and this is how it happens. And that awareness.
So you think many people are not aware that they are TIs? They don't know about it?
I didn't know I was being microwaved. I had no idea that I was being. I thought it was. I didn't even know what it was. Oh yeah. For example, this here, I went to a rheumatologist and I said, "What is this?" And he says, "Oh, that's arthritis. You're getting old." And I'm like, "No, I'm not getting old. I'm in shape. I exercise. I eat well. I maintain my alkaline. I'm not. My body's alkalinity's low. It's not as low acidic." And it just didn't make sense, all the changes that my body was undergoing. Well, I was being microwaved to death, and I didn't know it. Because you don't recognize it because you didn't know what it was. And so now, creating this awareness of what being microwaved feels like, it's a different thing. In the complaint, for example, one of our plaintiffs, her 3-year-old started being microwaved.
With 3 years?
3
This
years.
is horrible for a small child who
A
doesn't know
toddler.
anything. Yeah.
Nothing. And so
absolutely horrible.
she started waking up really hot, her body. But the mother could recognize it because the mother is targeted.
Okay, she knew what it is, but
And
the child didn't know, of course. Yeah, a child doesn't know what it is. Yeah.
No, she's and so I can tell you this because it's a public record.
Okay.
I will only talk to you about public record. I won't say anything that is confidential, and this is part of the record. And so this just tells you the level of cruelty, on inhumanity.
They even torture children, small children.
Just because it was right after we filed a complaint, they started torturing her child.
Yeah.
I mean, her targeting increased, her attacks increased, but then they went for her child to try to, make her go back on.
Absolutely horrible. Well, you said there was something on your hand. How did you find out that you are a TI? How did this happen? For some people, they suddenly see that something strange is happening. Some have these burns on their skin. Some have these hematomas, or some have just stalking. It's difficult for everybody. It's not the same. How did you find out that you are in a program?
Well, a lot of horrible things have happened to me throughout the past 2 decades. Now I know it's a fake cancer diagnosis and 6 weeks of radiotherapy, and my mom died in front of me, and my father, now I know he was murdered. And a lot of people have been murdered around me. But I just thought that I had, a difficult deck of cards in my life. But when it became really bad, the gangstalking became really bad in May of 2021. That's when I dismissed without prejudice the complaint against the doctor that mutilated me. I underwent breast surgery and he mutilated me horribly. And I dismissed without prejudice, which means I can file again. They thought that it was with prejudice. So that's when the attacks started really bad. That doctor was the one to implant me from the very beginning, and I didn't know it. He crushed my hips joints are crushed. There's no joint left, I implanted on my back. But I didn't know it. The doctor, the chiropractor said, "Oh, it's because you lost so much weight that the bone has a lot of, space in there." Well, he was lying because he knew. I'm sure he knew. The chiropractor knew of what they'd done to me. There's too many people in the medical mafia in Puerto Rico, and I'm gonna, for example, I had an X-ray done of my hips in 2019, August 2019. Now I can recognize, a doctor, a radiologist showed me how to see implants. Well, now I recognize all the implants and that doctor didn't mention them. If he had told me, I wouldn't have ever undergone. So how I knew I was a TI? Well, the gangstalking became really bad. They slashed my tires on my car. They did a lot of things. They threw acid in my car. They did a lot of horrible things. And I called a person in the United States, and she said, "Oh my God, you are a targeted individual." I was like, "What's that?" And I'm pretty well read, but I think information is filtered to Puerto Rico. It filtered. And I became aware of it, and I started reading, and I came across TargetdJustice, and I started reading, and I'm like, "Oh my God, they've done all this, have you seen the gangstalking manual in there?" They had done all of it to me.
I didn't see it. No, I didn't see it.
There's the gangstalking manual.
Okay.
There.
That's an internal manual for the
It comes from Europe.
groups that are doing gangstalking.
Exactly. It's like a training manual. And it was contained in one of the books of this lady that I'm sure they murdered her. And I think it was adapted in the United States. So when I was reading that manual, I'm like, I recognize they've done everything to me. And so I kept on investigating. And a lot of good people have given me hints of things like, and then I went to my MRIs, and then I had a CT scan of the neck and the head done. And it's so obvious. There are all the contraptions. And I have one of the breasts.
So you are one of the less. There are not many persons who can prove that they are implanted. In Germany, many people say, "Oh, I have implants here, in my legs and in my head and everywhere," but they have no proof. Most of them have no proof. There are only a few people in the world that can prove that they are really implanted with implants, and you are one of them. So.
Well, they were the
important.
criminals. The people, my perps in Puerto Rico were all like, "Oh, well, you can't prove it because the radiologist reports don't mention them." But
they don't talk about it. They don't write
no.
This is an implant. They write something else.
No,
yeah.
they would have been terrified. They must have been terrified when they saw it. But so here's the thing. I'm like, I'll be glad to sit them and cross-examine them with radiology textbooks and images and compare images, and come on, just tell me, what is this bone here called, and can you tell me what is this called here, and where in the book, can you show me in the book where, you know what I mean? And they don't want to do that. In fact, the last radiologist that did my CT scan, I requested an appointment with him because I was going to cross-examine him informally in his office, and he had the secretary say, "No, I don't talk to patients," which is a lie, because all radiologists have always talked to me about the results.
Yes, of course.
I only talk to doctors. And he refused to talk to me because he knew I was going to interrogate him about what are these computers in my ears, what is this thing in my eye, what is what is this thing in the middle of my brain. So they thought that I couldn't prove it. But I am waiting for the day when I sit each and every one of those radiologists and ask them, why didn't you talk about that rod, up in my, area here, abdominal area, and this and that? Why didn't you mention it in your report? Because it's all a conspiracy that can be proven. Because here's the crime of the implants. Isn't it a stupid crime for the criminal to leave the evidence inside of you?
Well, they don't think that you can find it. I think this is in the most cases, they don't care because they think nobody talks about that. The people are not able to find their implants. The doctors help not to find the implants. The police helps not to find anything, not to have any evidence. The prosecutor also says, okay, this is not possible. We don't do anything. There is no evidence. This is the case in Germany. Everybody says, there is no evidence, we cannot do anything, nobody's interested.
A friend told me, "Oh, but you have no evidence." And I said, "What do you think is this? Look at that.
Yeah,
what do you think is that?" I don't even have to, it just moves from side to side, you see?
It's like,
they put a plastic thing to cover the computer or whatever it is that the chips.
I've never seen something before. This is really...
and it's like, I can just go like this, and are you going to tell me this is not for covering the implants?
No.
So don't give me that. I'm too smart. I am too smart for anybody to say, you cannot prove that because you're not a radiologist. Yeah, but I can cross-examine them. And I have learned, I have self-taught myself to cross-examine them. And that's what TIs need to do. But I've seen that they learn from the real good sources, because there's also misinformation out there, about maybe some of it is true, maybe not, but I just go with the evidence, and with books and with solid evidence. And I have so much of it that, it's just going to the correct sources, not let people go into, this is Satan. Yeah, I think the people that do this to us is evil. But the symptoms we feel are not about, somebody doing voodoo on us. It's clear that our microwave weapons being, directed at us. It's clear.
Yeah. And what is also amazing is that a lot of these symptoms, or let's call it effects, are also the same effects in the people that have the diagnosis of Havana syndrome. What is very new in the last years, the Havana syndrome, and a lot of these people have exactly the same symptoms like the TIs. So this is the same technique, what is behind.
When you listen to those, there was like a 16 minutes, I think, interview of them. When you hear them talk, you recognize in their testimonies the same thing we feel.
Yeah.
Some to a greater degree than others. Some people are tortured. One of our plaintiffs is tortured every day in such a way that it's humanly, it goes to the border of a fainting. You know how humans can tolerate pain to a certain extent and then they faint? That's where they take him.
Okay.
and you know, the sense of urgency, because it's different. You know, it's like V2K, and the torture is different on everybody. I have been humbled with the correspondence I have read, some of the TIs that write to Targeted Justice, because I cannot comprehend how human beings are capable of doing this to their fellow citizens.
Yeah, it's not imaginable why somebody does something to another person. Yeah, you cannot imagine why is somebody so cruel.
The hatred.
Yeah.
One of the things that I learned in this process is that since they tell the gangstalkers that we are terrorists, and they justify it to them, you're being a patriot by tormenting this person.
You do something good. You do something
Yes.
for your country.
You are being a patriot. You're being a good citizen.
Good citizen.
And that is why they.
And this one is a bad guy. He's
Yeah.
a terrorist. He's a something else, and drug dealer or
He
something
pretends
else.
to be a nice person, but he's a terrorist.
He's a terrorist. So what you are doing is right. Everything is okay,
Yes.
because this one is a terrorist. It's allowed to do everything with this person. This is how they think. Yeah.
Except that here's what. First of all, let's for argument purposes only, people that are in jail that have been convicted of a crime, they are protected from cruel and unusual punishment, at least in the United States. That's the Eighth Amendment. Well, TIs are submitted to an accusation without being notified by a secret entity. They have been judged. They have been sentenced to a life of torment and torture with cruel and unusual punishment. All of this in violation of
And they
the
don't
Constitution.
even know what they did. They don't even know why they are in this program. They don't even know that they are in this program.
The worst part is they don't even have a mechanism to get out of this human experimentation program.
It's a lifelong
It's highly
sentence
illegal.
until you are dead. Yeah.
And this is a Holocaust occurring in real time, being carried out by the most democratic nation in the world.
High developed nation, so
Exactly,
to say. Yeah.
first world, the example of freedom. And we're United States is enslaving people to a life of torture.
Absolutely. Do you know why you get into this program, and how? What did you do? What is your why do they think you are a terrorist? You are not a terrorist, of course, but why could they think that you are a terrorist?
No,
What did you do?
They know I'm not. In fact, a woman once told me they have tried to disbar you in so many occasions, but they can't because they know you're too much of an honest woman. And I know a lot about corruption going on in many places in Puerto Rico, and they don't want me to talk about it. So even among fellow attorneys, you know, there's just unspeakable truths. And I'm not going to speak about them now because I'm very concentrated on this case. But it all started when I started. I did my law school in Puerto Rico. I did college in New York, then I came to Puerto Rico, did law school, then I went to Vermont, did a master's in environmental law with the idea to come back and clean our waters that are highly compromised. I came across this environmental justice community, a very low-income community in the coastal town of Barceloneta, where there is a wastewater treatment plant there. And when I smelled what came out of the plant, I was like, how can anybody live here? I cannot describe the smell. It's just atrocious.
So this was because of chemicals, or
Yeah,
what was the
well,
reason for that?
The reason for that is that 11 pharmaceutical plants discharged their wastewater to this plant that was technically owned by them. It had been operating for 30 years. It's a secondary wastewater treatment plant. It should be tertiary, but it's secondary. All of its tanks were open, and it was mismanaged. And so the wastewater is supposed to arrive to the plant through gravity, but it didn't happen that way. And the retention times between the plant discharge and the plant could be all 2 days. So hydrogen sulfide, 2-3 days, depending on the flow. Hydrogen sulfide would form, killing, and then a synergy of chemicals, of hazardous air pollutants would mix in there. So when they come to the plant, as you know, the water bubbles that are used for the digestion process, well, these hazardous air pollutants would hold on to these water bubbles and go into the atmosphere. During the day, it wasn't so bad because the trade winds would take the smell to areas that wasn't so bad. But at night, when the trade wind stopped, a cloud of, when there weren't winds, a cloud of stench would happen and people had no life. So I took that on, and it was like Erin Brockovich. I thought of myself, I'm going to do this Erin Brockovich, but I didn't know the downside of it, which is Erin Brockovich gone south, gone bad. And that's when my targeting began. I know that's when my targeting began because it was told to me that when I started investigating that case, that's when it began.
Okay, and this is what happened after that.
But they started gathering enemies of mine. If I would win a case, or if I was a very aggressive litigator for a client of mine, they would go knock on their door and say, hey, would you like to join the Anna Hate Club? We're taking people here. So, and finally they got somebody that was able to get me into the federal program. Mm-hmm. I didn't know. I lived my life thinking, the power of now. I'm here right now. I'm here with you. I'm fine. I'm not going to worry about anything. But they managed to do a lot of stress on me and a lot of horrible things to me. Just when I was really happy, like I was in a convention, a New Age convention. Well, right when the lecture was going to start, somebody would call me to give me this horrible news. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And the way they did it, they convinced to put me in the program is my boyfriend from college was Iranian. I hadn't talked to him in 30 years. The day that they diagnosed the fake cancer on me, I get an iMessage and it said, so-and-so messaged you. And I was like, oh my God, that very first day that they had told me about the cancer, fake cancer. And so I waited until the next day and I answered. And I texted with him and he says, I just wanted to tell you that, what we had was real, whatever. He had been set up, maybe working with the criminals, so that they could say, oh, she's texting with an Iranian that has business in London and Iran. Mm. She has possible ties to terrorism. If you read the entire text, it was like about college and about, the good times.
So this is enough to text with
exactly.
with a man
with a former boyfriend from college to say that I have possible ties
to terrorism. Yeah.
And that's how they're doing to everybody. The possible ties. But we are in this category 3 and 4 that by the FBI's own admission are not people that meet the terrorist criteria.
What you are talking about now is this terrorist database. And you say all the TIs in the world are so to say members of part of this database that was produced or was created from the US, from the FBI. It's run by the FBI.
After 9/11, the President Bush issued what is called Homeland Security Presidential Directive number 6. So it's not an act of Congress. It doesn't come from the Patriot Act. It's an executive order. And as such, it has to be subjected to a very strict scrutiny because it was not a law passed by Congress. And that said that they were creating the terrorist screening center under the FBI. It was done afterwards, and that very same day, September 16, 2013. And they created the terrorist screening center under the FBI umbrella. They have to adhere to to the laws, to the treaties. They have to obey the law. And it was only for the listing of terrorists or suspected terrorists. Well, those are categories 1 and 2. And they continued adding people that are those possible ties to terrorism.
1 or 2 are terrorists. There are
1 is known terrorist, and the instructions is if you meet with one that's in category 1, you arrest them. 2 is suspected terrorists. Those are the ones that when they go to the airport, they pretty much open all of their suitcases and submit them to read.
This is the so-called no-fly list, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. You're not allowed to go on a plane.
No fly is number 1, and selectee list is the second one, which they select you and they do a thorough search of you. Those 2 are called the watch list. Now, categories 3 and 4, they are not. And the reason we are not is because they let categories 3 and 4 travel, and they're not supposed to tell them. Categories 1 and 2 have an option of challenging with Homeland Security, challenging their being listed there.
So they can go to court and say, take me out of that list, or?
Not really.
That's not really.
It's a mechanism that I don't believe.
Is
But
it-
it is being upheld by the courts.
Is this a secret list? Is it confidential?
It's not a classified document. It's given away to 18,000 tribal, federal, and state law enforcement agencies. They have it in real time. It's distributed against around 60 countries or more. It's distributed in private corporations, like employment agencies. So you cannot say it's a confidential document, but they are not allowed to tell us that we are in it's called a terrorist screening database.
So when a policeman stops me in Germany with my car and he puts my data into the computer, so he should see that something is wrong with this guy. He's in a list or something.
But they're not allowed to tell you.
They're not allowed.
They're not. The instructions when in the motion that we just filed, there is an example of the instructions given to the Baltimore Police Department how to handle. And in the case of 3 and 4, it's like, look around, like to see if you can entrap them into a crime or something. Look around for evidence of malfeasance.
Maybe we get something.
Exactly.
There is nothing, but maybe there could be someday, and we have to find it.
Try to gather
Try
information.
to gather something,
That's
yeah.
the instructions are there.
Okay.
Basically, try to entrap them. You know, as an attorney, that's how I see it. It's try to
Absolutely.
entrap them into a crime.
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
My heart goes out to a lot of people in jail, are severely V2K'd and microwave too. Inmates, a lot of people. People are put in jail for stupid things, like leaving the car at the side of the road. One of our TIs
Really?
was put in jail because of that.
Oh.
They don't have...
That's hard.
Yeah. Or they're put in mental hospitals without the assistance of counsel. Because that's their tactic, you know, to say that people are crazy. So it's just... that's how I found out in July of 2021, right after I won a case in the First Circuit in Boston that I had argued. That's when they pulled the rug from under me, and the gang stalking became brutal, and I didn't know what was happening. But there's a lot of people that love me and they were giving me hints here and there, risking themselves.
Okay, understand.
And that's how but the glory and grace of God. I'm sorry, I have to admit that is what I'm a walking miracle, because I was not supposed to be here.
Well, you have so much of this technique inside of your body. It's really a miracle that you still live,
It's a miracle.
And it had to be mind blowing for you when you found out that all these things are going on and you have all this stuff in your body.
Tell you what's most mind-blowing is the doctors that I trusted throughout my life. Like, I had a doctor for 37 years, and he's one of the ones that implanted me. And the surgeon, I mean, you're putting your life in their hands, and they betray you. Like, not only betray the Hippocratic Oath, forget that. Not only betray the law and the mutilation, but it's the trust you put in a doctor. A dentist, I had a dentist put, one of the worst ones I have here, was put by a dentist. And she was singing Christian hymns as she was putting them.
Oh, really?
I'm not kidding. And I thought she was such a lovely lady.
Oh.
She's such an evil, because evil comes dressed as a sheep.
She's so nice to me. She's so nice to me.
Yeah, because evil comes dressed as a sheep, you know, the wolves. And
Yeah.
that is the life of TIs. We have a lot of sheep around us, but they're really wolves.
Yeah.
And that's what
That's a
we
good
have to
picture.
do. Yeah.
Yeah. Wolves in sheep's clothes. Yeah. Well, let's get back to the court case. You said this list was created by the U.S. and is run by the FBI. And who is the defendant in this court case?
Well, the defendants are there's various defendants. Even though the FBI is a defendant, it's only a defendant because the plaintiffs asked for their information. Am I on the list? Give me the information. And the FBI refused to provide the information. So that's part of the cause of action in the United States. There's a Privacy Act that gives you a cause of action, because I have a right to have the information in the hands of the government about me.
This is the Freedom of Information Act in the U.S.
It's a corollary, but it's Privacy Act because it's about me. I cannot ask about your information, but I can ask about mine.
Yeah.
So
it's same here in Germany. It's same here.
We have. Yeah. That's why we brought in FBI and DHS as defendants, because they violated the Privacy Act. Now we also have as defendants the directors of these agencies, because they did an oath. They took an oath to uphold the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, which includes treaties, like, for example, the Treaty Against Torture and Inhuman Treatment that has been ratified by the United States. So we sued them in their official and in their individual capacities, because both Targeted Justice, on behalf of its members, and the plaintiffs believe that these people have failed to comply with their official duties, and so those are the pleadings. Basically, you cannot say that you are upholding the Constitution when you deprive a person of basic due process rights, of notice, of opportunity to confront evidence against you, of not being tortured. You know, and so here's what I was explaining to Melanie. It's mathematically implausible that these 17 people are in the list, and they also have these symptoms.
17 people are Targeted Justice, members of Targeted Justice.
Yes, they are volunteers. They are part of the advisory board. They are plaintiffs that are related to Targeted Justice, and they all have most of the 10 of the 17 have B2K, not all of them. They all have one of them has the formal, three of them have a formal Havana syndrome diagnosis. And the National Academies of Sciences have issued a report saying that Havana syndrome is only caused by directed energy weapons. So it's a causality thing that if I have Havana syndrome, I have been attacked by these kind of weapons.
What do you think? How big is the whole amount of people who are in this list? Are there 1,000 or 5,000? How many could this be?
Well, in preparation for this case, I read through documents that were produced in a case called LID versus Cable, which is a prior case challenging the watch list, components 1 and 2. In that case, they gathered a lot of evidence in sworn statements, under penalty of perjury, and depositions, and there's also reports. There's reports by the Inspector General of the United States, Department of Justice. And in those reports, it says that most of the people in the terrorist list don't meet the terrorist criteria, and that's the 97%.
So that's their own quote, their own words.
People.
They say the most of the people who are in this list, over 90%, 97 or so, you said, do not match the criteria of
exactly
to be in that list.
And that's why they're not in handling codes 1 and 2. That's why they created these handling codes 3 and 4. But here's the thing, that Timothy Grow, which is the person that gives this testimony, they're put in there for other reasons, but not because they meet the terrorist criteria. So what happens, that the presidential directive that gave authority to the creation of the lists limited it to known and suspected terrorists. Another testimony within that case was an agent, one of the directors, whose last name is DeSarno. He goes that they asked him, has this list stopped any act of terrorism? And he said, no, we don't know of any act of terrorism.
Not only one case where it worked, where they stopped
admission.
terrorism.
It's an FBI admission.
Yeah.
You know? And the FBI is also admitting that 97% of the people don't meet the test. So you ask me how many? Well, in that case, they produce numbers. And it's incredible the amount of people that are being added every year, because it doesn't correlate to acts of terrorism going on. And right now, our estimate is that it's at 6 million around the world. And then the United States is it's like reaching 300,000 if it hasn't already exceeded it.
6 million in this database around the world. This is a lot of people. This is really a lot.
In the whole database. So out of this 6 million, well, I guess 5.5 or I don't know how much, 5.6 may be the 97% in handling codes 3 and 4 that don't meet the terrorist criteria. My phones were tapped forever. I had in my car, they put a recorder. If I was a terrorist, I would have been accused a long time ago.
Of course. They would take
FBI.
out and put you in jail, yeah, if there would be a reason for that.
Before I came to Houston, went to Houston, I went to the FBI offices and I said, I want you to accuse me right now. If you have any evidence on me, I want you to accuse me right now. I'm here. I'm giving myself over, because I know I'm going to prevail, because I know I'm innocent of everything. And the guy's like, no, go away. You know, they didn't know what to do with me, because he was so crazy, you know, to do that. But it's because I know that I am right, and I am such a law-abiding citizen that they can't do, you know what I mean?
There is absolutely no reason to put people in such a situation. And even if you were a terrorist, there's no reason
to torture you.
To torture you. There is no law that allows to torture a terrorist.
No.
So they can put you to jail.
It.
They could put you to jail, but not torture you.
I am sure
with
that
weapons.
It's being done. I'm sure that not only categories 3 and 4 are being tortured, but 1 and 2 as well. The problem is a lot of people keep quiet because they don't want to admit it. It's like coming out of the closet kind of thing. A lot of people, you know, is coming out of the TI closet because people are afraid of being called crazy. But the problem is when you have 6 million people in the United States, it's when there is so many people telling the same story, it cannot be denied anymore. It's not susceptible to plausible deniability, which is the platform upon which they build the program.
Usually they say, okay, these people are all crazy, but they have all the same craziness in their head, the same picture, the same things. What happens to them every day in their life, and this is not
the same pattern.
This is not
because
normal.
They are following.
It's like a storybook.
Rule book. They are following a rule book.
Yes.
And for example, like one of the things about schizophrenia, which doctors seem to have forgotten what they learned in school, is that usually the set-off age for schizophrenia is in the 20s. But here we see it's mostly middle-aged people that start getting V2K and men. And schizophrenia is something that seldom happens to men. And it's not like this, because schizophrenia medication doesn't shut off the voices. Yeah,
this is what I heard. I know some TIs that have been in the hospital in a psychiatry, and they got medication and it didn't help. It didn't stop anything. It went on and went on.
Because it's not schizophrenia.
Yeah. Yes.
And like that woman that has a daughter that she's the targeted one, but her 34-year-old daughter is a Down syndrome patient. Well, she has the V2K, and they torture her, they torment her. Now, you tell me how a Down syndrome patient can be a terrorist threat.
Yeah.
I want to know how.
Yeah.
Or a 3-year-old baby, because one of our plaintiffs' daughters, well, now they're microwaving one of them, but one of the ones in the complaint, she's a 3-year-old little girl.
How can she be a terrorist with 3
And she
years
started
old?
hearing the voices in the attic, and it's the V2K. Fortunately, the father you told me yesterday, it's not allowed in Europe, but the father was able to construct a jammer. It's in the TargetdJustice webpage.
Okay.
And he was able to shut it off for his little girl and for his wife. So if it was schizophrenia, no jammer could turn it
No,
off.
of course not. No jammer helps
and
against any
exactly.
disease.
And the science is there. So we are just looking forward to having a day in court for that father to go testify before that judge and tell his story. And the United States is going to be really embarrassed because most people don't know that this is going on.
Yeah, same here in Germany. The most people don't know that something exists. Yeah, and if you tell them, yeah, I am attacked by energy weapons, microwave weapons, they say go to the hospital.
Conspiracy theory.
Conspiracy theory. Yeah, everything is it's a lie, or you are crazy, or something like that. Yeah. They don't believe it. They don't believe it, and it exists. The documents are there, and they are doing research for such a long time on it, and people don't know about it.
It's important that people know, because they're like, how did you make the connection? The connection was made because Richard Lighthouse, who was one of the plaintiffs, Owen, he was being microwaved, and he got a blood clot in his legs, and he was on the floor. And they called a mother, called an ambulance. He lived with his elderly mother. And this is in the complaint, okay? And the deputy sheriffs came in and said, oh, the ambulance is out there, but we cannot let them in because we have to secure the area because we were told terrorists live here. That's how he began investigating. Mm-hmm. That's the connection.
They were not allowed to come in his house because the computer said there is a terrorist, be careful, don't go into this house. Yeah, maybe weapons or something else. And then first they had to be sure
he almost died.
He almost
because
died.
Of the delay.
Okay.
In the ambulance, the technicians were like, hurry, we're losing him.
Oh, really?
He remembers all of that.
Oh, really?
He almost died because they had them waiting out there.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Because of this.
It's so hard. Yeah.
But you see, that's how he started connecting the dots. And then with the evidence in that case, and the evidence that in that, that FBI deputy director said, no, there's people there in that list for other purposes.
Mm-hmm.
Other purposes.
What purpose could this be to be in such a list?
Exactly. But the thing is that the authorization for the list, for this McCarthy blacklist, is very limited. And the exception turns out to be the majority of the list, because it's only 0.29% of terrorists or suspected terrorists in the list, and the rest are non-investigative subjects. So what are the purposes for it?
Yeah,
if not?
That's a good question. What are the purposes?
Yeah, and we will depose them and ask them. They're going to have to say what are the purposes of this list.
Yeah.
Because they are the jailers. They put the people in the list. FBI and CIA put the people in the list, but FBI maintains the list, and FBI has, for example, the authority to put people out of the list. They do an investigation. This people is not associated to terrorism. Let's take him out of it. But it's like I told you, it's like Hotel California. Once you go in, there's no checking out.
Yeah, you never get out.
That's why we filed this complaint, because we have a right to get out of it.
Absolutely. And a lot of TIs in the world are with you now in these days and are hoping that you are successful, with this lawsuit.
Well, even though the lawsuit is on behalf of American citizens in America and residents, it's also for the entire world, because we invoked the Convention Against Torture in the complaint. And there's members, Targeted Justice represents its membership that has people from all over the world too. And nobody, United States agreed that they wouldn't torture anybody. And they
if the people would know, the people, the citizens of the US, they wouldn't agree, of course.
Of course not. There's billions of dollars being spent to torture American citizens and people around the world.
People worldwide, yeah.
I don't think normal Americans would agree to that. They wouldn't.
Never, no. Nobody would.
Nobody would.
Of course.
Nobody would, and I think that the job that ICATOR and all these organizations do, we have to put the word out, not just among targeted people, because we're preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
We have to get normies out there that don't know about this to listen to the reality, because now we have evidence from the FBI saying, yeah, there's people in that list that don't meet the terrorist criteria. What? Why do you have them there?
Yeah. This is it. This is the question.
What are they there for?
Why are they in this list?
And then when you listen to those people tell their story, like Melanie also had the tires slashed. So many, I had 3 flat tires in a year with screws. It's just the same pattern of things, coming into your house.
Yeah, I also had this
at
my bicycle. They slashed my tires at the bicycle. Yeah.
It's things that are not normal and very frequent. Coming into your house. Now the ACLU filed a very important case on February 6th against NSA, another one, because they are carrying out the abuse of the FISA court and carrying out, just getting warrants against American citizens. And the FISA court is not supposed to be to target American citizens. And it's a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit, really, to get information that they have asked for a long time. But I think that when they succeed, it's going to be, it's the chronos and the kairos. It's the chronos is the chronological time, and kairos is the time of God. And I think that right now, all of the things are getting into place to uncover the veil, to just remove the veil of this atrocious program.
The time is here, huh? For change.
And finish it.
To finish it, absolutely.
And a lot of people have to go to jail, because there's people that go into work in the mornings, for example, the people that do the V2K to people. But V2K is a microwave beam, you know that. It comes, cell towers, they use cell towers to attack people that way.
Absolutely.
So there is people that actually, I don't have V2K, so I cannot, this is hearsay kind of thing, but they actually have conversations with them.
Yeah, I know. They talk with them.
They talk with them.
Yeah.
So it's, it's real people.
Yeah.
One of my plaintiffs.
It's not a machine, or it's not your thoughts or something else.
Yeah, they record the voices of other people, like my voice now. They can record it to use it to say things that I haven't said, fake messages.
Voice morphing.
Yes.
It's called voice morphing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And they do that. One of our plaintiffs, they put his relatives' voices talking to him.
But it's fake. It's not the real voices. Yeah,
it's fake.
I understand. Yeah.
But there is a human being working behind
managing
the computer.
this all. Yeah.
Yeah. And
it's an operator or something. Yeah.
It's intentional torture. They are paying American employees of the United States Air Force, Space Force, to intentionally torture people, and that is a crime of war.
Absolutely. Yeah.
These people have to be jailed.
And it's financed by taxpayers, by the tax money.
Taxpayers are financing it without knowing that the money they pay to the IRS is being used to torture their brothers and sisters. And I don't know if you know, but now they are FBI is targeting Catholic people that in Virginia, through memo, they are categorizing Catholics that go to Latin Mass as domestic terrorists.
Oh, really?
Yes, that was a whistleblower just revealed that. It's in a memo. They put it in a memo.
Okay.
That they are considered to be domestic terrorist threats.
They went to the wrong mass.
That listen to mass in Latin. And I'm sure most Christians are being targeted too. A huge part of our membership are Christians. Huge part of a targeted community is women. It's a hate crime too. It's a hate crime against women.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, there are many women.
We estimate it's something like 66% too is women. The same with the V2K. 66% get V2K.
Okay.
Of the TI community.
Okay.
It seems to be sort of satanic numbers, like 66.6, whatever. It's
well, many people think there is something satanic behind it because, it looks satanic. It's a part of Satanism to torture people, to put pain to people, to give pain to people.
But
that's a part of it. Yeah.
And I'll tell you what's their demise, because they never considered the power of God and the power of faith. And in their equation of perfection, we put the implants, we have this, we have the control of the gangstalkers. They didn't put God in the equation. And that is what has saved many of us. I am a walking miracle with all the contraptions inside of me. And with the plans, even my family turned against me. My friends turned against me.
Yeah, this is...
They denied me a piece of bread. My friends that partied in my house, that drank in my house, because they were threatened by them. So we cannot help her.
Oh, really?
And only one single cousin of mine helped me. The rest, they all denied me. They wouldn't even say hello to me.
This is really bad.
It was, yeah. And then now they're pretending nothing happened here. No, whoa, what? No. Where have you been?
Everything normal again. We are friends again.
Yes.
Yeah,
we're
nice.
friends again. Yes.
Oh, this is
but
bad.
No, I'm very clear.
Yeah, you don't forget something, never. If something happens, you don't forget it. Yeah. I want to ask you one last question. I think then it's okay for today. How can someone who has all these effects or symptoms, so to call, how is it possible to prove Havana syndrome? Because
there's a medical protocol. There's a doctor in Miami called Dr. Hefner. He has published his protocol. So it's not like you have to fly to Miami. I think if you get an honest neurologist that adopts, because two of our plaintiffs had tested in California with his protocol.
But with another doctor, not with...
With another doctor.
Okay.
Yes.
Understand.
So you don't have to go to him. You just have to follow his protocol, that he has published it. And there is, you have loss of brain mass, a shrinkage of your brain mass.
Okay, it gets smaller.
And there, I don't know I don't want to incur in the mistake of talking about it because I'm not very familiar with it. But I know that there are these tests that if you meet them, then you do have Havana syndrome. And the important thing is that the National Academies of Sciences have admitted that only microwave weapons, directed energy weapons,
pulsed microwaves. Yes.
So, who caused my Havana syndrome? That's the question. Who did it? The CIA has said that.
Who controls the microwaves around us? Who controls the cell phone towers? Who has these weapons? Who has satellite weapons?
Yes.
Cell phone.
And it's not your neighbor. It's important that people know your neighbors might have other things, but not microwave weapons. It takes 400, the electricity equivalent to power 400 homes to fire a microwave weapon. And that's really important because many TIs think that
it's a neighbor, it's my neighbor. They want my house, they want my flat.
I'm not an engineer. It took me a lot of learning from Richard Lighthouse to learn that it's not your neighbor. And most, like 90% comes from cell. See them there, cell towers.
Yes, of course.
Antennas, but others, the one that comes straight ahead, they're from satellites. And there's a treaty that prohibits damage to people and things on Earth by satellites. So that's one of the treaties that protects people outside of the United States that don't have the protections of the United States Constitution. You have the treaties, the Geneva Convention. You have the treaty against damages, from satellite or space objects, and you have the treaty, the Convention Against Torture, that the United States is bound by it too. And
they should be.
I hope that you all in Europe and Australia and in other places unite to demand that to a stop to this, because we know where it's, there are many players, but if this list, what we're asking for is to shut down this list, because if you don't have a list of names to fire the weapons at, it is our hope that they're no longer fired at us.
Hopefully this will end the torture for everybody.
Yes, it's gonna be dwindling away, I think. It's gonna take a little time. It's not gonna be automatic. And I hope that the representative Jim Jordan, who started right now the hearings on the weaponization of the government, takes a look at this, because there is no bigger weaponization of the government than the program. This is the most outrageous weaponization of the government that there is. So far he hasn't touched it, but I hope he does.
And we all hope so too.
Yes.
Hopefully this will bring an end to everything. Anna, I thank you very much that you came here, that you talked to me today. Is there something you want to say to all the TIs out there in the world, all these 6 million, possibly 6 million people in the list?
We are working hard to end everyone's targeting, not just targeted justice members, not just those plaintiffs. We are fighting day and night to end this, because it's wrong, because it's illegal, because it's inhumane. So we should all join, a united TI community nobody can defeat. So it's like stop fighting inside, because our enemy is trying to divide us into infighting, because it's the divide and conquer. So don't fall prey into that. Just support those people that are fighting for your rights. That's what I say, and one important thing is, what did you do today to contribute the end of targeting? There's many things you can do. You can print out flyers and give them around in your community. You can give them in emergency room hospitals, because there's doctors that are receiving patients with microwave burns and they don't know what they are. You can just creating awareness among non-TIs. That is a huge step forward to ending the targeting. Just when you go to bed tonight, just say, what did I do to end my targeting? And it's going to come to an end pretty soon. I'm confident we will do it together.
And everybody can do something.
Everybody
can help.
Just changing the mind of one person, they add up. 6 million around the world that do it. But you see, a lot of people aren't even aware that they are targeted.
Yes.
They have all these pains, and they think it's the age, they think it's arthritis, they think it's fibromyalgia, and it's not. It's microwave weapon attacks. So I think that just make it a goal of doing one thing towards ending targeting. They convince the mind of a gang stalker that you're not a terrorist, that you're a good person. Don't treat them badly. Treat them with kindness, and then they'll be like, that happened to me in an Uber ride. I treated with so much kindness this guy that was doing the street theater on me, trying to make me really scared of the airplane. And at the end of the ride, he said, I've never met a bad Puerto Rican. And I knew all along the ride he had been trying to instill fear on me, because I was anxiety because I was getting in the plane. And I didn't know at that moment I was targeted. Now in hindsight, I recognize the signs. But he turned around and he said, I've never met one bad Puerto Rican. And that made me so
You convinced
happy.
him. You convinced him.
I convinced him that what he had done was
that
wrong.
he was wrong. Yeah, he was wrong.
was wrong.
And he saw that.
And I convinced him I wasn't a criminal,
Yeah.
as he was told when he got in the car.
They also have the false informations. They don't tell them the truth.
Exactly.
They are also lied from somebody.
They are lying. That's the only way they get them to do the bad things they do to us.
Yeah.
Because they lie to them.
Yeah.
They say you're a pedophile, you're a criminal, you're this, you're that. So that's why people feel entitled to, oh, I'm doing something good.
Yeah. They think they do something for the society or something.
Yes.
Yeah. They help the society.
So when we teach them that we are good people, that we have compassionate hearts, well, they turn around and say, well, maybe I was lied to. And then you convert that gang stalker into a non-gang stalker. And we can't do that, because I refuse to believe that people intentionally carry out this cruelty, knowing that we are innocent. I refuse to believe that. I believe in people and in human and in the power of love. So that's my message.
We will put an end to this.
We will.
Somehow.
We will. I am so convinced. I'm so convinced that 2023 TIs will be set free. I am absolutely convinced of that.
Thank you for coming, Anna, and thank you for this beautiful talk with you. I'm so glad.
Thank you.
And I hope you enjoy your rest of the holidays here, or your days in
I have
Brussels.
to go back to my friend because she needs me. I studied in Paris, and I'm a little bit, not her tour guide, but a little bit of her interpreter, because I'm not that good, but at least I can help her out, and that's what she wanted me to do. So, it's good. She's a good friend. She's one of the 2 or 3 people that didn't abandon me when everybody abandoned me. She didn't.
It's very important to have friends that still hold on you.
And they have done bad things to her. She has a business. They have broken her machinery. They have done things to her. But she says, no, it's just things that happen. She thinks it's just things that happen, but I know better, But she's got an incredible heart. And she's a courageous woman, because not everybody wants to be friends with the attorney filing this lawsuit.
No, not really, not really. If you tell people that you are a TI, then they get...
well, especially if you're the TI suing
they don't want
them.
to be very close to you.
No, they're scared. And she's a courageous woman, and that is, she's a generous and a courageous woman, because she dares to, stand up with me.
This is important to have such friends, such good friends, who stay with you, who stand with you.
Yeah. Well, courage is something you learn by doing. You don't read in a book how to be courageous.
No, of course not.
And here's the thing.
You have to learn it in life,
TIs, I don't know about you, you probably have, but I have looked at the devil in the eye. And so the perpetrators have made us into superhuman, very courageous. We're no longer afraid. So I'm no longer afraid to die. I don't want to die because I would never take my life, ever. And I say it over and over again just in case, because I want to go public. I would never, ever commit suicide. So if I show up with, and suicide, no, they killed me. Okay? So just please, and ask for an investigation. But at the same rate, we have gone through so much that I just want to live because I want to end targeting. And that's why I need a little bit more of life to end targeting and get to live again a life of freedom.
Yeah. We need our freedom back that we had before. This...
But we're not afraid, right? You're not afraid now of pretty much nothing scares you, right?
Well, I think, some things still scare me, but I think this is an important thing to get this done. This is an important work, and if they kill me, then it's the way. Yeah.
Well, it's like
then it's my way. Yeah.
The American patriot that said, "Give me liberty or give me death."
Yeah.
I refuse to live a life of enslavement. If I am not free, well, it's not worth living.
It's not alive anymore. Yeah.
And we have worked our lives to be honest, decent, hardworking, productive members of society. And so, unless I'm free, it's not worth it.
Yeah, life is no life without freedom. And this is our last word.
Okay.
Thank
Yes,
you,
thank
and
you. Thank you.
have a good time.
Thank you. I will. Thank you.